Hi, I'm Jesus Tirgatza, your host of 24/7 Laredo Talk Show. It's a talk show dedicated to talk about the real issues affecting Laredo. It's an original, free, and independent news voice about Laredo and surrounding areas. You can check us out on 247laredo.com. Today we do have former Councilman Roque Vela, who's here to talk to us about his prior record and about what he plans to do here for Laredo. Roque Vela, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you were able to make it. I've known your family for many years. And in fact, I saw you do your hard work as a city councilman in the last couple of years. But before I do that, I want to talk about your parents and your business that's going on right now.
Yeah, thank you. So Playmore, and a lot of people that are my age or older can identify with that brand and what Playmore was back in the day. And you know, with the business that we're bringing, that's basically the same concept as Playmore. Those of us that remember Playmore know it was bowling, skating, movies, golf carts, a little bit of everything. Yeah. This new version of Playmore is the same thing. It's going to have bowling, laser tag, ropes course, which is basically just ropes over the arcade area that has different obstacles, rock climbing, golf simulators, conference rooms, bar and grill, outdoor patio.
Well, how big is this?
It's 48,000 square feet.
48,000? That's like as big as a commercial warehouse.
No, it's huge, and it has very tall ceilings. The laser tag is 2-story. So I think as excited as people are here in Laredo about it and are expecting a lot, I think once we get open, they're going to be that much more impressed. Unfortunately, it's taken a little bit longer than we would have liked, but we should be open in about a month, sometime in September. Or hopefully,
it's going to be great for Laredo families and the community. You actually, then that tells me that at least your family and you have decided that Laredo is a good place to do business. You know,
Laredo's our home, and you know we've been blessed with a booming economy. Sometimes our local government gets in the way of that, but you can just see the resiliency in Laredo and the economy, and despite some of the mishaps that local government does sometimes, it just continues to thrive, it continues to grow. Right now it's a little bit under attack, if you will, with this whole NAFTA talk and what's going on, but we'll figure out a way. We'll continue to push forward, and yes, I mean, look, it's a $10 million investment. We're going to bring 80 new jobs to the community, have absolutely no tax breaks. It's all hard-earned money that my family has been working towards for years. And as you know, you and my father grew up in the same area in the Russell.
Right. We're from the neighborhood, from the Colonia. So I can relate to the fact that I can see a person coming from the neighborhood, from the Colonias, and it was a big family, and be able to move up in the world and in fact become a businessman, a very successful businessman in Laredo. So that's pretty impressive. And doing it on his own. So that is very impressive. You being a councilman in the past and actually seeing the type of work that was done in your neighborhood in terms of improving the lives of the people, have you seen some of your projects continue to bear fruit as far as you're concerned? Are you proud of the work that you did?
You know, after I lost my re-election, one of the things that gave me solace was I had a choice to keep my seat and serve on my knees, basically because there was this special interest. I was asking for $100 million of taxpayer money that I just refused to give because it wasn't a good deal for the people, or fight it out and go out on my feet. And obviously we lost re-election, and we can, now that I drive through my projects, whether it's the extension of Bartlett, you know, a $9 million project that we went 50-50 with the developer. So essentially the taxpayers put in $4.5 million. And we alleviated traffic, and we opened up 300 acres of undeveloped land, and now you can see that development start. I mean, there's homes, there's a medical center that's being built. So that investment is going to pay dividends within, you know, 8 years. And to accomplish everything that we accomplished with the alleviation of traffic and opening up that land, I mean, those are the exact type of deals that we need to be making as public officials. Then, of course, the Bartlett Soccer Complex, that park that we built in the swimming
actually,
pool.
the retention pond, it turned out pretty good. It turns out to be I pass by through there every day, and there's literally hundreds of people there all the time walking and using the pool. And there's actually, that became a city park pretty much.
People flock to it.
For that neighborhood. So it pretty much has found its way to become a part of the lifestyle in that neighborhood. So it's worked out really well.
It has.
So how do you feel now about being out for 2 years? Have you seen the continued growth, or do you believe that there's been a a problem with city government?
That's a good question. You look at the past 2 years, and those that were familiar with politics knew exactly what was going to happen had I lost my re-election. Unfortunately, the general public didn't know that. But now you're starting to see, after 2 years, people starting to understand that there is disarray in City Council, within City Hall. Our meetings are very poorly run. Our City Council meetings are a meeting for the business to conduct a city business. And it's turned into a chamber of politics. A lot of finger pointing.
Maybe a Game of Thrones.
Very much so. Yes, that's well put. And you look at what projects have happened in the past 2 years, or what's in the near future, and there's just nothing solid to point to. You know, I tell people this all the time. It's not a coincidence that we had multiple overpasses built in Loop 20 while I was there. We had the one in International done. We had the one at McPherson done. We had the one at Clark finally done. And then now there's a flyover connecting the west side of Loop 20 to the east side of Loop 20 over I-35. That's being done. That was done when I was in office as well. And then the access roads over the railroad tracks on Clark as well. So you have all those in the works, but they were, you know, that hay was put in the barn, you know, 3-4 years ago while I was in office. Now there's nothing. There's no significant park projects. As a matter of fact, if you look at our parks now, a lot of they're deteriorating. There's discretionary money being spent left and right. They're taking trips all over the place. They're hiring people. I mean, it's just fiscal irresponsible decision after fiscal irresponsible decision. And you look at 2 nights ago, I guess it was Tuesday night, they slashed our tax rate by less than half a penny. And it's funny that they do it at this time during a political season. And really, it's just a slap in the face of the people of Laredo, because those of us know that, number one, they're spending too much money. You can't spend at the rate that you're spending and cut costs at the same, or cut your revenue at the same time. It just doesn't make any sense. The real problem is our appraisals. Our appraisals are rising every single year, 10 to 15%. And regardless of what our tax rate is, if you keep it or you slash it by half a penny, the amount of money that we're giving to the government is still going to continue to increase. And then on top of that, they're increasing our bridge fees. They're adding fees to our water bills. So they're nickel and diming us left and right.
That water bill, and I can tell you, the public, I mean, there's a few bills out there that stick out to people. And the water bill, certainly, the water and sewer bill, while it may be a small amount for many, many people, it's a big amount for those people in a fixed income.
It absolutely is. And you know, the worst part about it is that rate, our water rate, is scheduled to increase 5% every year until 2037. Right. So one of the first things I want to do when I win as your next mayor is I want to freeze the water rates. I want to freeze our appraisal, the value of our homes, for 4 years. I want to go back to picking up trash twice a week. And that's not to say that we're going to abandon the recycling program. I mean, we still need to embrace it, but we need to be able to figure out a way for those of you that want their trash picked up twice a week. We'll provide that service.
There may be a premium price for that. Or a tier.
What I want to do is right now we pay $18 a month to pick up your trash and recycling. Bring that up to 20, and then if you choose to opt into the recycling program, then we'll reduce it to 16 or something like that. So basically, we're incentivizing people and we're encouraging people to take part of the recycling program, because we do want to recycle. But if you want to have your trash picked up twice, because right now a lot of people have 2 cans and they're paying, I think it's like an extra $6 or something like that a month. So this would actually be cheaper for them with the $2 increase. So the point is we want to get back to running the city like a business, providing customer service. The city has just gotten very entitled, where, you know, taking the approach where the people need the city. And they're right. I mean, where else are they going to get water? Where else are they going to get their trash picked up? But that doesn't mean that you take advantage of that and you force these fees down their throat, and you certainly don't not provide them a good quality customer service.
Exactly. Well, you've already mentioned one of the reasons why you want to run for mayor, it seems. But I'm just curious to know, with the environment or the way things are going on with city council, do you really believe that any mayor or any person can come in and try to put some type of order, or do you think it's something that you can't do?
That's a good question. That's a very good question.
When we had other mayors and other city managers, things were not maybe as as freewheeling as they are now.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious what your thoughts are. What would be your role model or your type of system that you would want to implement to have a better control on those meetings?
You know, this atmosphere that you see now was created by Pete. I mean, he went in there with this type of the way he carried himself and the way he treated other people, other council members, that it was there was this immediate divide within the council. And it's almost encouraged. As a mayor, look, the man or the woman makes that seat. A lot of people say that the mayor has no power. You're the mayor of the city of Laredo. Just because you can't vote on every single item doesn't mean that you have no power. It's the type of person you are. It's the leadership, the type of leader that you are. That's
the leadership. Maybe that's what we need.
That's exactly what we need.
Is that the issue then?
We need somebody that knows how to be able to work with other people and can lead, and more importantly, lead by example. I served with Pete for 2 years, and I saw what he did in front of the camera, in front of people, and the type of work ethic that he brings behind the scenes. And I can tell you, he's not at City Hall. He doesn't communicate with the other council members. One of the reasons...
Whose job is it to gather the votes for certain particular motions? Is it the mayor? Is it the city council? Is it the city manager? A combination? I mean, who should be taking the lead on all the major issues?
It's the job of the person that wants to be successful. And one of the reasons why I was successful is I always worked. I spent an average of at least 4 days out of the week at City Hall.
Yeah.
A lot of times I was pulled into meetings because I would just happen to be in the building, and you know, they wanted somebody that would, like, the official, be able to make decisions. So, you know, when I got to city council, there was, when I first ran in 2012, there was a few things I wanted to do. I wanted to extend Bartlett. I wanted to build Bartlett Soccer Complex so that we can get the Boys and Girls Club Flag Football League that was playing in the base area, those rock fields by San Martin, that are just riddled with rocks, and move them into nice green lush fields. We did that. I wanted to invest in public safety. We brought an ambulance to the fire station on Loop 20 right across the TAMU, and hired the firefighters to be able to man it. And I mean, you think about that. We did not have, District 5 didn't have an ambulance inside the district. That was crazy. That was a crazy notion to me. So we did that, and I wanted to be fiscally responsible, and we did that as well. But once I got to City Hall, I kind of just looked around and saw this vacuum of leadership. Mike Garza was at the tail end of his tenure, and he was, you know, kind of coasting, if you will. And you know, being in public office for that amount of time, it's difficult. So I immediately, you know, rose to this leadership position, not because that's what I was going after. It just kind of happened, and I took control of the situation, and immediately was able to just embrace that role, if you will. And now 6 years later, I look at the atmosphere there and see that that's exactly what City Hall needs. City Hall needs leadership. And to answer your question, you know, could I take control of that? I absolutely can. I firmly believe that elected officials the majority of them want to do what's right for the community. But when you don't have any leadership, and you're constantly swimming upstream, if you will, because you have the leader creating this volatile atmosphere, then you're going to get what we have right now. You're going to get 8 people doing different things, doing what they want to do, because they're just not inspired. They don't see somebody that's giving the council any true direction. And whenever something bad happens, just starts to point fingers and say, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. Well, you know, you're the mayor of the city of Laredo, and if something bad happens, whether it's something that you created or not, the buck stops at your desk.
It's got to stop somewhere. Someone's got to take responsibility. And but some people may say that part of the problem is the fact that we have single member districts as opposed to having open-ended city council positions. But again, you say that the mayor can still oversee and can actually show the leadership over all that.
You know, there's no perfect system. Single member districts has its issues, but the only way to get true representation from every corner of the city and give every corner of the city a true voice is through single member districts.
Yes.
Now, I don't necessarily have a problem with some type of mix, not a 50-50 mix like they were trying to accomplish 2 years ago with the 4 at-large and 4 single-member districts, but maybe keeping this 8 and adding 2 at-large districts is something that I would certainly embrace and be okay with. But you can't continue to try and fix something by creating some different type of system. It comes down to the leadership that you have at the head of the table.
Well, it seems to me that based on what you're saying, that the leadership is really the key issue for the future of Laredo in terms of where we're going to go. Because if we keep going the way it's going, it seems to me that the councilmen are running the show and not the mayor. And with all due respect to all the councilmen, they all have different agendas or different issues, and there seems to be no agenda, or maybe the city manager's not in control of the situation.
Yeah, well, it's like I've told people, I don't think Pete is a bad person. He's just a terrible mayor. He's done a really bad job. I don't think he means to do bad. I think he means well, but I mean, we have 4 years of an example of what he can and cannot do, and we can see now that he cannot lead the city. He can't lead that council. And one of the good things about losing my re-election is for 2 years he kept saying, if you just get rid of Roque, I'm going to be okay. I'll be able to run the show. Well, he got his way, and now you see that the city has taken some drastic steps back. So people know what I bring to the table. People know that I understand city business, that obviously I have the right intentions, and they certainly know the type of leadership I can bring. So I'm excited about this.
Well, what we're going to do at this point, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to get back and continue talking to our former councilman and talk to about the issue of the city ethics ordinance and a couple of other issues that are out there. Welcome back to the show. We do have today our former councilman Roque Vela, who's here to talk to us about why he's running for mayor. More particularly, we were in the middle of a discussion concerning the way the city council runs, and you know, people that I've talked to, one of the biggest issues that they have is the issue of, you know, what they foresee as ethical lapses by some of the councilmen, and it seems that there's no way of bringing in those ethical lapses because of an ethics committee that might not be as strong as you might want it.
Yeah.
What is the problem there with the ethics committee?
You know, I saw the issue with the Ethics Commission from the very beginning, and a couple of years ago, I actually made a comment in the Laredo Morning Times and called it basically a joke. And some of the commissioners took offense to that. And I wasn't trying to direct that towards the commissioners. It was just the way it's comprised is broken. I mean, when you have council members appointing people that are supposed to be overseeing them, well, that in itself is you can make the argument unethical.
But would that be then something that the city charter may need to be amended?
You know,
to create an independent body to handle this?
The trick is, how do you do that? I mean, do we go as far as to hold elections to elect people to that commission? I mean, maybe that's something we need to do. I don't know. I mean, this is something that we need to have a good, honest, healthy conversation with them amongst ourselves on platforms like this to figure out how you fix it.
But what exactly can an ethics committee at this point do if there is a violation?
We don't even know, because they've never actually found anybody guilty, even though there's been multiple instances where we've had on camera. I remember 2 years ago we had the mayor advocating for the 4x4, the 4 at large, at a city council meeting, during the meeting on TV, and it's black and white. Right. You cannot do that.
You can't be.
And they still, it was brought to the ethics commission, and they let them off the hook. And so what happens? I don't know.
But I think that out there in the community there is a serious discussion out there going on concerning the ethics violations of some of the councilmen, and there seems to be no way of other than the voting them out. But if you're going to create an ethics committee, then you need to give it the proper teeth or the proper legal criteria to be able to do something about it if someone violates those rules. But it seems that that's not an issue that's being brought up.
Well, I mean, it is picking up some steam, because I actually had my first volunteers meeting last night, and it was some random person that we put it together via Facebook. So there was a lot of new faces that were showing up, and after I spoke, he came up to me and said, you talked about every single thing that's important to me, the water bill, the fiscal responsibility, the appraisals, all those things. He goes, the one thing you didn't mention was the ethics commission. Right. And, and he was right. He's right. There's people that are concerned about it. How we fix it, I think we need to have that conversation again. We also need to look at see what other cities are doing too, and see how we can put something together that makes sense, that's actually going to hold the city council accountable.
Well, the only way we're going to lessen the ethics violations, it seems to me, is that you're going to have to create an independent body and put some teeth on there. And after a couple of violations, that you certainly need to create a system where those city councilmen need to go through a recall election, or they need to be removed in some capacity.
Yeah.
Something strong. But that takes me to the other issue that other people are talking about, and that's the issue of the discretionary fund.
Yeah.
Explain to me what is a discretionary fund? If you can explain that to the public.
So discretionary, and it varies year to year. When I was there, 1 year we got $100,000 in discretionary money, and my last year we got $500,000 in discretionary money. And basically, discretionary money is we go out and we sell bonds. Every year, the city sells bonds, and a bond is a loan, and it could be we're borrowing against our tax dollars. You could be borrowing against sales tax dollars. You could be borrowing against bridge revenue, utility revenue, different departments. The most solid one is our tax dollars. That's called a CO, Certificate of Obligation. And that's what we use to be able to get discretionary money. Discretionary money...
Well, the point is that every councilman gets about 60...
Now they're getting $500,000 every year.
Each one, or
each one?
Okay,
and the mayor last year, for the first time ever, the mayor has never gotten any discretionary money.
Well, then does that mean that if I can't get my money, if I can't get the city council to approve a particular project that I want,
yeah,
then I can go to the city council and say, you have $500,000. Can you transfer to a city department, or can you pass out any money to
anything
a particular...
you want?
Right.
You can do pretty much. Now you're supposed...
And that creates then, if there are no rules concerning that, then that creates a potential conflict of interest, because they're using it as a slush fund.
It's a slush fund.
For every city council.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be restricted to brick and mortar projects, because we're selling bonds, and it's a 20-year payout. Okay. But they're not doing that. We try to keep it to that.
If that's the case, so if a councilman gives $10,000 to a nonprofit, which has nothing to do with bricks and mortar,
it's not supposed to do that.
Then that's a violation, and no one's calling it. Or they give $10,000 to, which of course we all want to help out the high schools, and we want to help out the kids in some capacity. But if it's not bricks and mortar, chances are there may be a violation. Maybe. I didn't say it was, but there may be.
I guarantee
there are some rules that are not
that they're doing exactly that, right. and that is the epitome of fiscal irresponsibility. We're taking out a loan against our tax dollars, a 20-year loan, to just be able to spread money left and right.
Right.
What I want to do is, and people say, how are you going to get the council members to do that? What I want to do is get rid of discretionary funds. And not just go in there and do it as a mayor, because if I am successful, then it's going to be very easy once I'm gone for the next mayor to come in here and say, and try to buy favor with the council members. Say, okay, we're going to start selling bonds again to get discretionary money so everybody can like me, right? Because a lot of times, a new city manager especially will do that. Is put some propositions on the ballot and make it part of our charter.
Right. Saying, that or city ordinance of some type?
Well, I mean, but even that, they can overturn it.
Okay.
So once you put it in charter, then that's our constitution.
Right.
You cannot go against that without taking it to the people and say, hey, we're not going to allow the use of discretionary money anymore.
You see, when you have $500,000 on a yearly basis, you're a councilman, you have a lot of money to give out to your constituency, but they could also be abused. And it shouldn't have to be that way, because if you do need the money, it should go through the proper city council budget process.
Exactly.
And it should be part of the official city budget, instead of doling out money.
And that's how I plan to sell it to the council members, because they're not going to like me, taking that $500,000 away a year from them away. But just like you said, it's about being part of the budget process. That doesn't mean that we can't push projects that are important to them into their district. Right. But let's sit down during the budget process. What's important to you as a staff and as a council? We'll say, okay, this is a project that makes sense, that we're all comfortable with. You build it into the budget, then you go and sell bonds for that specific project.
It's for example, a couple of months ago, there was the issue of the animal shelter. Mm-hmm. And there was a big outcry in the community concerning the way it was being handled. Yeah. And they came and said, but we don't have the adequate funding for the facility. And then the councilmen began outbidding themselves in terms of throwing money into the project, which is proper in terms of we needed to properly fund the animal shelter. But it shouldn't have happened like that. It should have been happening through a normal process of city budget approving all this. you would avoid a lot of money being needlessly being spent when it could have been done the right.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's and why don't we just sell bonds to improve
Right.
our animal shelter
Right.
instead of giving it to you and then,
Yeah.
oh, look at me, I'm such a good guy,
Exactly.
I'm giving
And
money.
then using it as a basis for maybe running for office later on and things
Exactly.
like that. And that's the type of stuff that people out in the community see that. They might not talk about it, they may not tell you about it, but the thing is that there's an issue dealing with ethics that we can read through that one a mile away.
Well, I just going back to this less than half a cent tax cut that they took
Right.
on Tuesday. I
On
mean,
Tuesday.
people know that what they're doing.
Right.
It's not because they're trying to help the people. It's campaign season,
Right.
and they're trying to make it seem like they have the people's best interest in mind.
Yeah. Well, those are the issues I think that are going to resonate with the public the next couple of months. And I really look forward to you coming back and talking to the rest of the media and the community talking about all these issues, because at the end of the day, it's our taxpayers at work. And in my view, I think the taxpayers want a city council that works within the confines of a normal process, that has a budget, that works through a normal process where there's no money on the side being given to other parties, third parties, where everything is transparent, accountable, ethical. And if you do all that, then that's what we want as a public, from a public servant. And I think that there seems to be some challenges there that are out there that need to be dealt with.
Nothing that can be fixed, Judge.
No.
It's just a matter of the people waking up and seeing, who actually has the people's best interests in mind, and you're starting to see that. I knew this would turn eventually. I didn't think it would be 2 years, but the fact is that they've done such a bad job in these 2 years that the people are upset, and they're starting to wake up. And I just hope that I'm able to campaign hard enough, and the people can identify.
In order, last time we had about 25,000 people who voted at the last election, when we had over 100,000 people registered to vote. As a former councilman and as certainly a potential mayor of Laredo, what do you tell the public, or what do you tell the young people or the people who don't vote? Why should they go out and vote? What matters?
Well,
what do you tell them?
If you don't vote, if you don't take part of the political process, of the electoral process, then you end up with a flawed government. And we need to empower the younger generation and encourage them to vote. One of the issues is they see during the election process, there's a lot of politicians that make empty promises, and they say one thing, they tell you whatever you want to hear, then they get in there and they do whatever they want, and that turns people off. What we need to do is we need to identify, or the voters need to identify the ones that are speaking the truth, the ones that are in it for the right reasons. Do your homework, understand which ones have done what our track record is, and elect the ones that keep their promise. Don't elect the ones that know what they're talking about. Elect the ones that understand whatever seat they're going after. In this case, it's the mayor, and be able to run the city of Laredo. And if we start electing officials that do a good job and keep their promises instead of making empty promises, I think you'll see a much better turnout. But look, the millennials to me are a great generation. They're very motivated. They're very smart. They're very educated.
They can be the greatest generation.
They really can.
They have the access that other older people didn't have.
They absolutely can, and they're for being so young, they're very, very active.
Yes.
But they don't vote much.
Yeah.
So we need to get the millennials to come out to the polls and make sure that we're voting people that care.
Right.
And they more than any other young generation, I think are understand that more than anybody else. Just for whatever reason, they're not excited about going to the polls. But hopefully that changes this year. I think the dynamics with the politics throughout the country is polarizing. And has gotten people very interested.
Yes, they have. In fact, I think the good news about the young people, they are in fact involved more so, I think, in social media, and that has opened the doors to possibly getting them more involved in the community, in the political process.
Yes.
So I'm hopeful. At this point, Councilman, we're going to go ahead and stop here, but you did a great job in terms of explaining to us what I think potentially what young people need to do to get involved in our community, and I hope they do. We will be needing to come back because we didn't talk about a lot of other issues.
There's a lot of things we can talk about.
But we can do so the next couple of weeks. I thank you again for being here. For 247laredo.com, I want to thank you. Please subscribe to the channel, and also please press the like button on the Facebook page as well. And we'll see you next time in 24/7 Laredo Talk Show.
And vote in the mayor's poll.
And you
vote in the
certainly need
mayor's
to vote in
poll.
the mayor's poll.